Hello everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United transfer news, as lots to get into. Eriksen deal done, question mark close, certainly. Also talk of a bid going in for Martinez, 40 million euros. I also want to add in a little bit of context because apparently Arsenal are going to get Rafinha for around £60 million. Does this mean that the Frenkie de Jong deal and for 70 million and the Antony deal for 50 million is actually really good, potentially really good deal for Manchester United financially? So also quite a few bits to get onto, why we've been a bit of delay and a few other bits as well. But I think what I would say as well is it's very clear to me that whether we're going to buy 4 or 5 players, the 5th player is a confusion for me, and whether we'll get the 4 that Ten Hag wants is up for debate. But it's very obvious that the four players that Ten Hag wants, as things stand, are De Jong, Eriksen, Timber, Antony. Those 4, take it to the bank. He wants them. Whether he'll get them or not, don't know. Those 4, yes. The 5th one, is it a striker? Is it another midfielder? Is it Malacia as a fullback? We don't know. Will he get Timber? People seem to think not, but maybe it'll be Martinez, maybe it'll be Torres. But I think it's very obvious that it is De Jong, Eriksen, Antony and a centre-back that he wants, and that centre-back is Timber. Potentially it'll become Torres or Martinez. So yeah, lots to get into. But I want to start off, let's put it up on the screen for you. I'm going to tell you what I've been told, but first of all, let's just go with some actual story. So Christian Eriksen will make a decision on his future club soon. Manchester United have confirmed their interest to his agent. That's from Fabrizio Romano. And then you've got Alistair Gold, who I think, well, he's a London correspondent, saying that Tottenham have not followed up their interest yet over a free transfer for Christian Eriksen this summer and are now suddenly distancing themselves from any talk of discussions involving Eriksen. And Romano actually mentioned as well that they have got other priorities at the moment. Now, what I was told about an hour ago is that Christian Eriksen to Manchester United, you want to go high. On a percentage, you want to go very, very high. He is open to leaving London now. His options very much look like our Brentford and Manchester United, and Eriksen knows that Ten Hag wants him. Ten Hag is obsessed with getting him and De Jong, and this is a big pull to Eriksen, who is taking his time to think through. He's probably waiting for a counter offer from Spurs, but as things stand, he will be joining Manchester United, because if it's between Manchester United and Brentford, the expectation is that he will join Manchester United, because it's Manchester United, it's Erik Ten Hag who's basically saying, you're a massive part of what I want to do, you will be a massive part of this team, and he is expected to join Manchester United. Now, it does bring a bit of smile to my face, because I think when you look at Christian Eriksen, he's the heir to the Mata throne. Hopefully we'll use him more than we use Mata, but he's got that likability, he's got that quality, and Ten Hag really, really wants him. So I wouldn't say it's done deal yet, but what I was told about an hour ago is that this is, if you were going to do percentage, go high. So I would say, I'm not invested in the Eriksen deal. As I said, for me, this is a deal that I'd rather have 2 centre midfielders, a centre back, a right back, a left-footed winger before I went and got Eriksen, and I'd rather have a striker as well. But the fact that Ten Hag wants him, I think is going to be a big pull. And I suppose I'd say I'm probably... Look, if Spurs aren't interested, I'm tempted to say it's basically deal done. And I can't for the life of me see him staying at Brentford. I think he'll come to Manchester United. So I think that this deal will get done. Jack Malloy, welcome to the Members Club. I think it will get done. I don't necessarily think it will get done this week. He's not really got to make a decision. He's a free agent. He's got till the next Monday. He could be back in training, I suppose. So he might want to get it done this week. But then again, I think Eriksen played. Did Eriksen play? Somebody in the chat, did Eriksen play in the internationals for Denmark? Because if he did, he wouldn't be back until the start of July anyway. So maybe he'll take another week to make his mind up. You sometimes think that a free agent is a player that's going to come very, very quickly. But actually, I think he might just take another week. Finally, a club United can beat in a transfer race, says David. So yeah, I'd say at this point, I'd happily join the 90% club and for Eriksen, and I think he will end up joining Manchester United now that Spurs have distanced themselves from it. I think before the weekend it looked like he wanted to stay in. He did play in the internationals, thank you everybody. I think before the weekend it looked nailed on like he was going to go to Spurs, but I don't really know why Spurs were going for him anyway. I mean, he's a good player, but I think Spurs well, maybe they'll come back into him, but I think he's going to end up coming to Manchester United, and I think he'll probably make his decision at some point this week. Whether he'll be our first signing of the summer, I'm not so sure. I do feel that a lot of things are going to happen this week because they have to happen this week. The next 2 weeks certainly are key. International players won't be back in training until 2 weeks today, but non-international players are going to be back training next Monday. We're going to have training ground pictures of Rashford and David De Gea and Sancho and a few other players who didn't go on international duty. So they're all going to, and Luke Shaw, they're all going to be back, can't they? Why would he go to Tottenham, says Darby. And Mark, do you think Donny can play as a number 6? Donny will be back in training next week as well. He wasn't part of the Dutch squad either. We've got quite a few. We're quite beneficial this year, actually, because we've got a lot of players that should be internationals who aren't internationals. Sancho, De Gea, Rashford, Luke Shaw, Donny van der Beek. They all should have been on international duty and they're not. So we might benefit from them having a proper summer's rest. How happy are you with all this new news, says Ben Holland? Well, we'll go through some of the new news. We need a CDM. Our top priorities are cam and centre midfielder, says Mark Gunn. So, look, I think Eriksen will sign for Manchester United. I spoke to somebody about an hour ago, just before I went on TalkSport, and they were basically saying that, yeah, Spurs are not in the race anymore, so it's you against Brentford, and I'd go very high chance that he's going to be at Manchester United, so get ready for that. Bit of an obscure one, this. Manchester United have made an offer for Lisandro Martinez, but it leads into this from Disco Mirror, who says Manchester United are ready to gazump Arsenal and sign Lisandro Martinez after failing to land Timber. Arsenal had a £25 million bid for Martinez rejected by Ajax, and they fear United could now ultimately beat them to the capture. So Arsenal's interest in Lisandro Martinez we spoke about this morning, and Manchester United expected to go in with a £40 million deal offer, which would be about £33 million. For 24-year-old left-footed centre-back Lisandro Martinez of Ajax. Now, we spoke about this morning. I think this is a deal that many of you would be very, very excited about. I am going to use the word caution. I think that Timber deal is not over yet, although everyone keeps writing it off. I still think there's a decision to be made by Timber. He's either got to sign a new contract to Ajax or he's going to come to Manchester United, and he's done neither of those things yet. So I'm interested to see where that's going to go because Ten Hag really wanted him. And the second choice after Timber has always been Pau Torres. So to get to Lisandro Martinez, Timber's got to sign a contract to Ajax. Torres has got to stay at Villarreal or go somewhere else. And then we go for Lisandro Martinez because Lisandro Martinez is basically jumping past Timber and Torres to be our centre-back signing. Now, maybe the interest of Arsenal has prompted Ten Hag to go, that's the player we want to go for. And it was interesting reading what Samuel Luckhurst in the Manchester Evening News said this morning, that basically Manchester United are starting from scratch. Every player that was suggested from the scouting department of United before Ten Hag has come in has basically been ignored, as Ten Hag has said he wants these players. So that just shows you, maybe a little bit of delay excuse there. I don't know what you think about that. But Lisandro Martinez could well be a player that we bid for, and maybe we are being rushed into this because of the Arsenal interest. Maybe we're not interested at all and we're being used to get Arsenal to bid higher. So we'll wait and see on that one. But it's funny because I have been looking around on social media as I do, and whilst not many people are doing this, I do see, it reminds me of bloody Arsenal fans last week telling us that this Vieira of Porto is going to be better than Bernardo Silva, and they've probably never watched him play. And Lisandro Martinez is appearing in more and more United predicted 11s for next season as a CDM. This lad hasn't played CDM for Ajax last season. As far as I was aware, he played centre-back all season. So we are going to take a Dutch league centre-back, drop him into the most competitive league in the world as a CDM, and then when he's shit, we'll slaughter him. I just don't get it. There seems to be an obsession in our fan base to take a player from one position and solve the CDM. Oh, let's try Wan-Bissaka as a CDM. Let's try Lindelof as a CDM. Let's buy Lautaro we'd probably try Lautaro Martinez of Inter. Let's get Lisandro Martinez from the Dutch league and try him as a CDM. It's like, let's buy a CDM. We're Manchester United. Just buy a defensive-minded midfielder. I think bringing Lisandro Martinez into Manchester United and dropping him in the midfield would be ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. For me, he will come in and be the backup centre-back to Maguire and Varane. I think that's where he will end up being. He may well get used at left-back. But, yeah, we can't just keep buying players and thinking, let's play them as a CDM. It's crazy. He's a centre-back. That's where he's played. I think he was Ajax's Player of the Year last year as a centre-back. Why would we buy a centre-back and put him in the midfield? Like, why didn't Ten Hag do that then? I think don't be fooled, it's not Eriksen, it's Eric's son, says Steve Locke. I think that we are very desperate for a defensive-minded midfielder, and we're linked to none. So people start going, oh, maybe the centre-back can play there. And I just think we need a centre-back. The importance of a defensive-minded midfielder should not be understated. But the reason Erik Ten Hag wants a centre-back is because Manchester United's defensive line cannot play the way that Ajax play. The reason Timber and Lisandro Martinez are, people will say, well, they can play left back, they can play right back. Timber obviously right-footed and Martinez is left-footed, is because those centre-backs for Ajax, they cover the flanks a lot. They defend down the flanks. They're mobile. They're good on the ball. Both of them are under 6 foot. So I would be less locked into, let's buy one of Ajax's centre-backs to play him as a CDM. And I'd be more thinking he wants to buy one of Ajax's centre-backs because the way Ajax centre-backs play is how he wants United to play. He wants his centre-backs to play a high line. He wants them to be ball players, and he wants them to be able to cover the flanks when the full-backs go forward, because that's what Ajax do. So Lisandro Martinez he's probably more suitable to the back four for Manchester United because he's left-footed. I mean, Timber can play as a left-sided centre-back, but he's right-footed. So, look, I don't know whether we're in for Lisandro Martinez. We'll have to wait and see. But I think it will move quite quickly if it is. Thanks for the dark times you've got me through with laughter and normality, says Times End. Lockdown has been hard for me and many others. Thank you for the life journey more pleasant and making smiles on families' faces. That's a lovely message from you, mate. Thank you very much for that. While 25 to 30 million Koulibaly is available, United go for unproven centre-back, says Mohammed. But Koulibaly's also coming towards the end of his career, mate. I don't disagree with you about Koulibaly being an option, but Koulibaly was an option for United 3 years ago. I mean, he must be 30, 31 now. And is that the right sort of deal for Manchester United? I agree with Esville that we need to buy a CDM. But not necessarily a CDM. We just need to buy a defensive-minded player. What I'm intrigued by is that we were definitely looking at Kante 3 weeks ago. We decided not to go... And I'll bring that back in. I think this is the importance of the community. Kante was a player we were definitely looking at, and we decided against it because of his injury issues. You don't go from looking for a player like Kante and go, all right, his injury problems are an issue, let's not buy anybody. Who's the alternative to Kante? That's the thing that interests me. And I like what Sam says. He says, keep an eye on Alvarez. Ajax CDM, I see us going for him because he'll be cheap. I'm amazed that we haven't really been linked to him. I don't know how your mind works, but when I hear the name Martinez Alvarez, I sometimes mix them up. I don't know why. And sometimes I'll see United are in for Martinez and I'll think they're in for Alvarez. And I'm surprised we haven't been linked to him, really. Maguire's been caught so deep all season, just play him CDM, says Josh. Yeah, he'll still drop deep, though. And do you think that Eriksen would work well with Bruno and Frenkie de Jong, says Agent 47? Well, I spoke about it this morning, and I think that I cannot for the life of me, and look, never say never in football. You know, we see teams play without a number 9. We see all sorts of weird things in football. But I would be absolutely... I don't know how you could play a midfield 3 of Bruno, Eriksen and De Jong without getting absolutely smashed by some of the better teams. And I don't even mean Man City. I think teams like Spurs, even West Ham, would destroy... I mean, imagine Soucek and Declan Rice against De Jong, Eriksen and Bruno. They'd just get bullied. Like, you've got to have... You might not like it, but you've got to have some physicality and defensive ability. And I think Eriksen is not... I mean, I did the video, if you remember, check out the video. It's our latest video, actually, so it's very, very good. Our latest member video that we uploaded on Friday was Eriksen compared to Bruno. Bruno is not the most physical person in the world, but he does more physical things defensively and attackingly than Eriksen. So you're telling me that Bruno and Eriksen, who aren't particularly defensive-minded, are going to play with De Jong in a midfield 3, who's also not really physical, would get dominated. we'd get. I'd worry us. I'd worry about that midfield when we went to places like Brighton or Burnley have gone now, but these physical Premier League sides that reside in the bottom half of the table, I think they'd cause us massive problems. You've got to have that. I think about Manchester United when we used to play Wimbledon all those years ago, and Wimbledon used to bully people, but we, even though we were the best team in the world, we had Roy Keane, Paul Ince, Eric Cantona, Mark Hughes, Steve Bruce, these people who would get physical, and you've got to have that in the midfield. Somebody just said Rabiot. I just don't believe we're in for Rabiot. I really don't think that we are, but you know, there we go. Anyway, just to give you the latest on De Jong, this is a story coming in from Disco Mirror here that Manchester United are currently 15 million apart from Barcelona in the valuation of Frenkie de Jong. Samuel Luckhurst was also saying that as well. Welcome to the Members Club, Mohamed. What about Bruno, Donny and De Jong? Again, I'm not 100% that Bruno, Donny and De Jong would work either. It's, Donny's probably more physical than certainly Bruno and Eriksen. Is there enough in there for that? We all expect Donny to get given some game time. Hi Mark, if Donny starts games and plays well, what would they say about Ollie and Ralph not playing him? Also, do you think we're going to get 5 signings in, says Salah Ahmed? I think with the 5, we've got James Garner as well, Sam. Yeah, but again, if you've been watching James Garner and you've been watching Donny, no, you've not been watching them if you're going to sit there and tell me that they're physical like Fabinho or someone like that. They're not physical midfielders, and we don't have anybody who's physical. And if you're going to war or you're going on holiday, you know, you don't leave the butter at home and you don't leave the ammunition at home. Obviously make sure you're not taking ammunition on holiday and you're not taking butter to war, you'll be in trouble. But they're vital ingredients to what you're trying to do. And if we're going into a Premier League season, we can't have a midfield. Even if we've got 6 midfielders, you've got to have at least one who's physical. Because what if we go to Anfield? What? Oh, God, what are you going to Anfield? What about the structure? What about the players? What if you go to Anfield, right? United play well for the first half and we score a goal through Ronaldo. And first 15 minutes of the second half, it goes toe-to-toe and they haven't scored. Half an hour to go, the Anfield wave comes along. It's wave after wave after wave after attack, right? You'd like to have somebody on the bench, a Kante, a Fabinho, a Declan Rice, a Calvin Phillips, somebody you can chuck on into that midfield who's not there to score your goals, they're not there to correct, they're just there to get physical, to break up the ball. Now, who are we going to do that in that situation next year? Frenkie de Jong, Bruno, Eriksen, Van der Beek, Garner, Fred, McTominay. I mean, Fred and McTominay are physical, but they're also not very good. They don't pick up the runners, so they don't want the ball. So I think we've got to have... Manchester United are crying out for somebody who you look at them and you go, they're just very good defensively. They break up the play, they're physical. We need somebody like that. And Donny's not that. Garner's not that at the moment. McTominay's not that. Fred's not that. De Jong's not that. Bruno's not that. Eriksen's not that. So I really do hope that we've moved on from Kante as an option to somebody else that we're not aware of at the moment. Because when you talk about the 5 signings we're looking to make, yeah, De Jong, yeah, Eriksen, yeah, Timber, yeah, Anthony. But that 5th one could be a fullback. I'm really hoping it's a defensive-minded midfielder because we need one. Do you think Ajax would be more hesitant to sell if Anthony or Timber to United if Arsenal get Martinez, Haller's gone to Dortmund and Onana to Inter? It's more than that, chemists. Gravenberch and the right back have gone to Ajax as well. So 2 to Bayern, 2 to Bayern, Haller to Dortmund, Martinez to Arsenal, Onana's gone, and then we want to get 2 as well. That's 7 of their first team. I think it amazes me that if we want Ajax players, we haven't got any, and other clubs are coming in and taking Ajax players. I never would have predicted that. I would have thought the Ajax manager of the last 2 years would have made it very easy for us to bring in Ajax players if we wanted them. It would be embarrassing if we try and get an Ajax player and they say no because we've sold enough to other clubs. I mean, how does that work? One of the big advantages of bringing a manager in from a club that's good is that they've got them players on tap. I'd be amazed if we get to a position where we try and buy an Ajax player and they say no because we've already sold 5 or 6 to somebody else and we don't get anybody. Because that's sort of the advantage, isn't it? We saw it with Mourinho. He brought in well, Matic from Chelsea, because he'd had him before. So I'd be surprised if we don't get, because Ajax are a good side and there's some good players there. I'd be really surprised if we don't get 1 or 2 from Ajax in, because of the Ten Hag relationship. Farley, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Mark, you have been discussing the budget available lately. Do you believe that despite a staggered payment structure, the full value of the player will be considered in the budget, says Mojo? I've got no idea what's going to happen with the budget, Mojo. I really hope... I mean, look, as it says there, apparently we're 15 million apart from Barcelona in their valuation of Frenkie de Jong. It's about the structure of the payments, though. Kevin Bridge says it's not about the value. It's about the structure. If I'm spending £70 million on De Jong, I look at De Jong and I see a Manchester United player. If I'm spending £70 million on De Jong, I'm going, am I spending £70 million on De Jong? Or it's about the structure. If I might spend 40 million this year, and then give them 30 million next year. So is it 40 or is it 70? I don't know. The lengthy Frenkie de Jong negotiations has resulted in this, says Salah Ahmed. And what do you think about Weston McKennie from Juve, says Sabu? Not a lot, to be honest. But I do agree with the previous chat from Salah Ahmed that, yeah, we are paying the price of how long Frenkie de Jong is taking. And whilst it may end up with us not overpaying for him, maybe we'll get Frenkie de Jong for £60 million. But if we don't get any Ajax players, because you've been waiting on Frenkie de Jong, who's the winner and who's the loser? I suspect that we will get Frenkie de Jong for €70 million plus €10 million, which is €80 million, which is, what's 70 million euros today? 70 million euros today? 70 million euros in pounds is 60 million. The exchange rate's all over the place at the moment. Sometimes it's 63. So 80 million euros in pounds is 68 million. So ultimately, that's not a bad deal, is it? 70 million euros now, which is around 60 million quid. That's not bad. And then I don't mind giving them another 10 million in add-ons. So I think if United can get this done for 70 million euros plus 10 in add-ons, that's not a bad deal at all, really. And I don't think it's a bad deal for Barcelona either. I really think someone like Sangari is needed to create the right balance. He could be a Busquets type in a dynamic midfield 3. But it is a little bit worrying when it says that we're 15 million apart from Barcelona in their valuation of Frenkie de Jong, because if that's 15 million quid, what's 15 million pounds in euros? Well, that is about is it 20 million euros? No, it's less than that. It's about 18, isn't it? About 18 million euros. So, yeah, it's still quite a lot, isn't it? It's still quite a lot. I don't think it's going to be that much. I really... so, yeah, we'll see. Rafinha makes Frenkie de Jong look like a bargain, says Lars. Well, yeah, also, you're playing Premier League prices there, aren't you? Leeds stayed up. So, yeah, I think we will get Frenkie de Jong. I think there will be a big any day sort of update on that. But this deal is really about agreeing a fee with Barcelona. There's no doubt that Frenkie de Jong would love it if Barcelona said he's not for sale, we want to keep him. He would love that. He doesn't want to leave. But I think he's also very realistic to the fact that they want to sell him, and Manchester United's where he's going to be. Career mode's back at just after 3 o'clock, Jack, today. So there we go. But where we go after that, and has it delayed us? I think we can all agree that probably has happened, and Manchester United have got big eyes on them. Why do we not sign a CDM and give a chance young fast centre back Mark for 1 year? Everyone knows we are winning nothing in this year, says Sapatashi. Well, I basically think, Sapatashi, you've just created a really good debate point there. Welcome to the Members Club, Chief Red Devil. If you want to join, it's links in the top of the chat or the join button there. Also, if you are a member, don't forget to watch our exclusive extra videos we do for the members. because it's a comparison, the latest video of Eriksen and Bruno. Fascinating, the difference and how many of those categories Bruno wins, but then the deeper meaning of them. So make sure you check out that. Thomas Armstrong says, hi Mark, pre-season starts in a week. If Ten Hag hasn't got a single one of his targets, he has every right to walk, says Thomas. There's not a chance he's going to walk, Thomas. Someone said Barca did it with Xavi and Iniesta and they weren't physical, like they didn't have arguably the best CDM of all time in Busquets behind them, says KMW. Plus it's a different league. La Liga's not like the Premier League as well. But going back to what Sapatashi said there, he almost makes a great point. And I'm not ridiculing him in that, but he almost makes a great point until you think about it. Why are we buying another centre-back when we should spend that 40 million on a midfielder who is defensive-minded? And, you know, it's not a terrible point because we've got Varane, Maguire, Bailly, Lindelof, Twansebi, Mengi. There are centre-backs there. We've got 6 centre-backs. You could try one of the younger ones. You could just get by with what we've got for a season. We're not winning the league anyway. We're probably good enough to win the Europa League with those centre-backs if they're improved. Why would you buy another centre-back? Why would you not just spend that on a midfielder? Very good point from Sapatashi. But I'll go back to what I said a few minutes ago. The reason we're looking to buy a centre-back is because the way we want to play is really important to Ten Hag. And he wants his centre-backs to do a certain thing. And he wants his centre-back to be mobile, good on the ball, and intelligent in positional sense when they're on their own. He wants them to be able to defend one-on-one with a forward. He wants them to be able to move across and cover the channels if their fullback's gone forward. Well, what's down the channels? Speed. It's normally wingers, isn't it? So he wants mobile, intelligent centre-backs who can move across, cover the flanks, and actually, we haven't got anybody who can do that. Because, well, Varane's probably the best person to do it. He'd have to do it on the right-hand side, and maybe that's the player he's looking to use on the right-hand side anyway. He's not looking for 2 centre-backs. Varane can do it, but obviously he's injury-prone. Lindelof can't do it. He's not mobile enough. Maguire doesn't like being left one-on-one in a high line and also isn't mobile. Eric Bailly's mobile, but not particularly intelligent at reading the play. And then you've got 2 centre-backs. So I can see why he wants to buy a centre-back. And I think it's about... He probably thinks Varane is the only centre-back who's capable of doing the covering and the mobility and the intelligence on the ball. Imagine if you're playing Varane and Maguire and Luke Shaw goes forward as he meant to do in a Ten Hag system and he wants Maguire to cover the flank. We're in all sorts of trouble. The same with Lindelof. So I think this is why he's looking to buy a centre-back. I think they loaned Henderson because they want him to eventually be number 1. I don't think the board wants De Gea there much longer, says Cam. I mean, look, mate, you might be right. We'll have to wait and see with that. But also, Dean Henderson hasn't done himself any favours at United over the last year, and I don't think he's massively trusted. So, I don't know about that. King says, I disagree on Bailly. Well, why has Eric Bailly never been our first choice centre-back then, mate? You can disagree all you like. Let's open up the debate. Why is Eric Bailly not playing as a starting centre-back for Manchester United? And why is there not a big queue of clubs trying to buy Eric Bailly? Because it's not just victimisation. I think there has been times when he's deserved to start, but the reality is you listen to people who on the training ground and things like that, and the issue with Eric Bailly is in a one-off game, he can be the best player on the pitch, but he will make mistakes because he wanders. His mind wanders and his positional sense wanders, and also he's not the best player on the ball. Far from it. So I don't think Eric Bailly... I read something today that Eric Bailly wants to try and impress Eric Ten Hag. And that, to me, stinks of no one wants to buy you and pay your wages. Because impress Eric Ten Hag. Like, I don't think you're an Eric Ten Hag type of centre-back. Scholes and Carrick were not physical and we were still the better team. If the other team can't get the better, then they can hurt us, says Shane. Well, Michael Carrick was over 6 foot and he was physical, actually. He dives into tackles too much and he's too rash and injury prone. I think I like Eric Bailly. He should have been playing way more games than Lindelof and Maguire, but I just don't think he's the right sort of player for what Eric Ten Hag wants. And he's a bit reckless as well, as a lot of people said there. Don't forget they can't control the area during set pieces either, says Chris. Yeah, and our centre-backs need to be able to control the game and dictate the game. And I think Eric Bailly needs to be sold. Harry Maguire needs to be on the bench. Lindelof, I don't know what happens with him, but we need a new starting centre-back and we need a midfielder with some physicality. But none of these things are going to happen until we buy Frenkie de Jong. And I really wish Frenkie de Jong had happened 2 weeks ago. But ultimately, when it happens, I'm anticipating United get a good deal, because you can't spend 7-8 weeks negotiating with Barcelona and then spend 80 million quid on him. There's got to be a good deal at the end of this. Maguire's only good one-on-one. I don't know what you're on about there, David. I don't know what you're on about there. De Jong is more physical than Carrick, by the way, says Rando. Oh, I love comments like this. What have you done? Created the players and put them in a WWE ring when you're playing on your PS5? What a stupid question. De Jong's more physical than Carrick. Carrick's not played for nearly 10 years. And I'd love to know what age you are to say that, because Michael Carrick, for me, is one of the most underrated Premier League midfielders ever. And this nonsense that he wasn't physical, Michael Carrick was a player that didn't dive into tackles because he was so ridiculously intelligent at reading the game. But I've seen Carrick time and time again sprinting alongside people and knocking them off the ball. He was over 6 foot and he was quite physical, actually. He just wasn't... I mean, you probably think Kante is more physical than Carrick because Kante tackles a lot more. That's not necessarily physicality. Physicality is also... I mean, McTominay's quite physical. He just doesn't know how to use it. Because he's too late into the tackle. He'd turn up at a Friday night disco on Saturday morning. He's just too slow into the tackle. I haven't followed any transfer news recently, but I know one thing, that this team won't improve until we get a proper sitting midfielder, says Anurag. Well, remember, we're not going to play with one sitting midfielder anyway. We're not going to sit with one. We're not going to play with one sitting midfielder. We're going to play with a midfield too. But one of those people does need to be a hunter of the ball, a physical player who hunts and gets the ball. Rodri's like Carrick, yes, Clint. Yeah, he is. Very much so. So, where are we at? Eriksen, I think, will happen to Manchester United. I'd love to tell you when. It could be tomorrow, it could be next week. I think Eriksen may just be waiting to see if Spurs go back in for him. If they don't, I expect this deal to get done very quickly. And most of the reason Eriksen will join United is because of Ten Hag's absolute insistence that he will be playing games and be part of his plans. De Jong was just waiting for that final offer to get accepted, and then I think it will move through as well. Centre-back, I'm not convinced about this Lisandro Martinez. I feel that we might be being used to get a good price, which is worrying in itself, because if he does sign for Arsenal, will Ajax sell anybody else? Like so many people have gone. And how have we gone from Timber to Torres to Lisandro Martinez, who at best is our third choice centre-back? So I'm not convinced that's actually true. We'll have to wait and see on that one. And I think people like Anthony will happen, but not until we've secured De Jong. Who can the club realistically sell for funds? We can't talk about incomings, but leaving the selling for the last 2-3 weeks. Another bloated squad, says Asher. Well, by design, we will sell players in August. That will happen, because let's be honest, who we're trying to sell, I doubt there's many clubs in the middle of July going, we've got to get Phil Jones, we've got to go and get Eric Bailly, we've got to get Axel Tuanzebe or Brandon Williams. They are the sort of players that clubs will go mid to late July, certainly August. They'll go, we could do with a couple of more players. What's available? What's left? We are selling players that are very much like the bargain aisle of the local supermarket. So by design, these players are going to be players that we're going to sell late on, because it's not going to be, they're going to be people who are desperate, aren't they? We need a Ji-Sung Park type of player, says Jack Birtles. And Mark, what do you think about Ten Hag's opinion is about Maguire, says Ronald Peters. I think with Maguire, he will sit in the same area as Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford, whereby the club have bigged them up massively and said, we need you to get the best out of these players. I certainly don't think Erik Ten Hag is going to walk into that club and say, you're on the bench, Harry, you're on the bench, Bruno, you're on the bench, Marcus. I think part of him being given the job will be his promise that he will get more out of those players, because they're three very valuable players to the club. So I'd be absolutely stunned if Harry Maguire isn't a starting centre-back. I think what we've got to be very careful of is that there will be an improvement in Rashford and Bruno and Harry, because they can't repeat last season. But I've seen this before with the United fan base. we will have 4 or 5 bad performances from a Maguire or a Fred or a McTominay. They'll have one okay game, and because they didn't make a mistake, people will go, oh, they were world class today. The standards of some of these players have dropped so far that even if they put in an okay performance, some of our fans would go, they were world class. But what we need to get is we need United class players, and I don't know whether some of these can do this. Wonder if Eriksen joins for the wage, says David Sherwin. We'll have offered big wages again, we always do. Can we all just take a moment and remember the true greatness that was Paul Scholes? Off topic, but he was also greatly underrated in England, says Michael Neal. Yeah, not underrated by this fan base, though. And Jay says, people are too young to remember Carrick. Watch him in our last title, how physical and smart a player he was, says Jay. I'll always defend Carrick, because as a footballer, he was one of my favourite players. This nonsense that he wasn't physical, I mean, basically, he is the modern-day Rodri. That's basically what he did. Thanks everyone for tuning in, by the way. I am going to be playing on FIFA in about half an hour's time. You can join me there for that. Please do subscribe, bottom right hand corner. We're on the road to 360,000. We're not far off, so please subscribe, bottom right hand corner. It's going to be a big week and a big couple of weeks on the United stand, so get ready for it. I think things are about to start hitting, and God, we're ready for it. So get ready, subscribe, bottom right hand corner, get your notifications on. We could be going live at any time for a signing, but yes, I'd say 90% club with Eriksen. It will happen. It's just a matter of when. Certainly was told that a couple of hours ago now, wouldn't it be? And yeah, we just need to get this fee done with Barcelona. Should United take the financial hit in player sales now and then reset their strategy, or will they prolong sales to try to get the best price? We'll always try and get the best price, Stephen, because we're owned by bankers and they will always want the best price. If Richard Arnold went to the Glazers and said, I can get you De Jong now for 80, or we can negotiate for a month and we'll get him for 70, they'll say get negotiating. Simple as that. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Smash a like on the video. The stream worked. We didn't have to go upstairs, so thank you very much for that. And make sure you subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Thanks to the new members as well. If you are a member, make sure you check out that Eriksen versus Bruno video, which is on the homepage. Really interesting. I'll speak to you in a bit. We're back at 8 o'clock unless something happens before.